I recently did a video about why Gen Z and millennials are choosing to go no contact with their parents. And of course, there were a lot of people in the comments who were sympathizing with the kids. And there were also people in the comments who were saying that we don't give enough grace to parents and that we need the parents' side of the story. So I thought it would be a good idea to showcase some parents who their kids went no contact with them and they're discussing why.
Recently, I was out to lunch with an old friend of mine who has been watching my TikToks and seeing my Facebook. And she said, Diva, you are such a great parent, and it must be so great to have this great relationship with all your children. Lots of greats in there. Story time. That's not true, baby. And let me tell you what I told her. Yes, I have this great relationship with two of my sons. My youngest daughter, my sunshine, is always around. That's who I'm usually talking about in these videos. But I have an oldest son who has chosen to go no contact with me and most of the family. Here's where I differ from a lot of people. I honor his space. I don't try to make up some type of story about how I did the best I could, even though I did. How, he should have been grateful for the life that I worked hard to give him. But see, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I wasn't recovering when he was in his early teens. I'm not going to feed my ego by saying, I'm your mother. I did the best I could. I was dealing with a lot. Whether or not that's true, I honor his truth. I really do. I love my son. I miss him. However, I won't be changing my number anytime soon, and the code to the front door that he has will never change. He can always get into any home that I live in. But I'm not going to sit here in front of my other kids or in front of you guys and say, oh, he's gone no contact. I don't understand. I understand completely. And I'm quite happy that I raised a grown ass man who can stand up for his feelings. I send him messages that I hope he's getting some therapy because I was his mother and I know he probably needs it. But other than that, I honor his space. I think sometimes that's the difference between Gen X parents and our boomer generation. Cause yeah, yeah, I'm your mom. I messed you up. I'm sorry. hmm We parent each of our children differently. That's just the truth of it. So one day maybe he'll come back around and we won't be estranged. In the meantime, I just love on the kids that are here and pray to the universe that things will change. Y'all have a good day.
I love the way she takes accountability for her actions. When he was growing up and he was a teen, she was a recovering alcoholic. She might not really have good memory of who she was and how she treated him, but he has good memory of that. And he chose to cut her off and cut some of the family off for a good reason. And there are so many people who like to talk about we need to give parents grace for what they did. Yes, you can get grace, but I still remembered what you did. It still hurt me, and I am choosing to not be in your space anymore. That is also grace. I also like that she said that we parent each child differently. I have four older brothers. I am sure that the version of my mom that my first brother had is different from the version of mom that I have. And it's the same thing when parents would treat you one way, and then all of a sudden, when they become grandparents, they're completely different. People change over time, and depending on where they are in their lives and what they're going through, they will treat each child differently. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's also important to acknowledge that you parent based on where you are in life and the resources that you may or may not have at the time.
I have three adult children and two aren't talking to me. And do I give a damn? Of course I care, but I'm not going to feed into their bullshit.
This video is interesting to watch because I think it encapsulates how a lot of parents feel about their millennial Gen Z children. And as a millennial myself, I want to give my perspective on this topic.
This creator asked the question why, and then another creator stitched her video and it was like, okay, well, I did this and I'm one of those kids and I walked away. Well, from my parents because they had trauma. Well, I look at it this way. They are basically saying that during our lifetime, that when their life overlapped with ours, that we should have provided them with a trauma-free, wonderful, perfect life. And I look at my mother, I have grace and empathy because she came up in a time where just certain things weren't available. I know that during my childhood, she battled depression. And these kids that look at our life and look at our timeline, who expect our timelines to be trauma free so they can be individuals that they're not dealing in reality. They're not dealing with real adulthood, because real adulthood is being able to look at somebody else and have grace and empathy.
First of all, no adult child is expecting their parent to provide them with a trauma free, wonderful life. What they ask for is for you to take accountability and make change. It goes on to say being a real adult is about having grace and empathy for people, like how she had grace and empathy for her mother who was battling depression. And I can agree with that. That is a part of adulthood. But my question is, where is the grace and empathy for the child who is being passed on all this generational trauma? Majority of children don't up and leave out of nowhere. A majority of children crave to be loved and validated by their own parents. Like, you can tell immediately there's no grace or empathy for her children because she calls what they're doing their bullshit. He also goes on to talk about how she's not talking about real abusers, ones that molest and beat their children, etc. Not realizing that emotional abuse and neglect actually causes the same amount, if not more, trauma to a child than all these other types of abuses that she considers more serious. And you can tell by this video and other videos that she's posted that she's very much stuck in that emotionally abusive cycle. There's a video where she talks about how her generation was only fed one stream of information, and that was to love and respect your parents and give them grace and empathy, proving that, she felt like she had no other choice but to feel that way towards her mom. Even though on the inside she may have felt conflicted, like she may still love her mom, but it must have been hard growing up with a mom that had depression. There had to have been some level of emotional neglect or abuse there. And because she was never given the space to share her emotions and have them validated, she expects the same level of love and empathy that she was forced to give her mom from her children.
And this is a good example of how a lot of these adults view their children, especially when they become adults. They're like, oh, well, you're an adult now, and you're supposed to understand that as a parent, we were going through stuff, we were dealing with stuff. So you should have grace and empathy for us. And I agree with the creator who made the response by saying, it's not that your kids would expect perfection. That's not what any realistic adult would grow up expecting from their parent. However, again, you have to be willing to take accountability for what you did in your child's life and be willing to make changes as you go along. So just because, well, that's how it was in my parents' time and that's how my grandparents did things, that doesn't mean that you have to continue parenting in the same way, especially if you were abused physically or emotionally as a child. And then you're going to pass that down to your child because, oh, well, you're just supposed to have empathy for your parents, or your parents were dealing with something. So you should just forgive them and move on. It was nothing because nobody's perfect. That only breeds resentment between generation. And then when you come around and you want to be in their lives and you even want to control their lives and you want to be in the lives of their children, they're obviously going to say no. Because who wants to be around someone who constantly talks down on them, constantly beats on them, never has anything good to say, and doesn't treat them like a human being? The child and parent relationship is one where the parent is in the superior position. The parent is the one who is in charge of providing needs to the child. The child might not understand what depression is as they were a child, but growing up, they will eventually understand and they will be able to say, hey, you were dealing with this thing. This is how it impacted me. But as the parent, you're like, oh, well, I was dealing with this. I was a human being. I wasn't perfect. You should just push it on the rug, basically, because I was dealing with this hard thing. No. So let's check out some of the comments. Someone says, the estranged parents speak about their children with such disdain and disrespect. No sane person would stick around for that. Someone else says, they get so defensive when all we ask for is an apology with possible changed behavior. Who wants to cut their parents off? Like, this is not me not being empathetic, but your child is not responsible for what you went through. Your child is not responsible for your addiction, your drug problem, your alcohol problem, your anger issues. Your child is not responsible for that. And then when your child has to deal with the consequences of that and they become traumatized and hurt and they want to have nothing to do with you, you're then going to say, oh, well, you're an adult now, so you should understand that I was just dealing with something. That doesn't make any sense.
So I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one, but I don't care. So I'm going to address a comment that repeatedly gets commented on my post and other people talking about estrangement. And it's the comment that says, your children are not estranging from you to hurt you. They're doing it to protect themselves. I call BS. What are they protecting themselves from with us? Loving parents who've always supported them, loving parents who's always, done everything in their power to be there for them, who financially has supported them, who has went out of their way and put their life on the back burner for their kids. What are they protecting themselves from? I know there are true, legit cases of abused children, ECs that genuinely need to walk away, but we're not talking about those. We're not talking about that percentage. We're talking about the rapidly growing epidemic of estranged children who walk away from their parents, and they walk away with no communication. Yes, I know that there are kids that have tried to talk to their parents. I'm well aware, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the big ones that shut their parents out, don't tell them why, won't communicate. They're protecting themselves, but not from us. They're protecting them so they don't have to be accountable for anything that they've done. So they don't have to sit down and have an adult conversation, have a hard conversation with their parents. They don't have to take any responsibility for anything that they've done. They walk away from anyone and everyone who tries to hold them accountable. It's easier to walk away. So I call BS on that comment. So ruffle some feathers. I don't care. That's the truth.
If you are genuinely a good parent that has been there providing for the physical and emotional needs of that child, you were a good support system and all of those things, a good parent, as she says, it is highly unlikely that a child is going to go no contact with you for no reason, with no warning, doesn't tell you why, and just disappears from your life. Highly unlikely. And I hate when parents like to talk about how, oh, I was your parent. I was there for you. I fed you. I clothed you. I sent you to school. You are supposed to do that. And if you don't, you go to jail. Like, that's not you going above and beyond as a parent. That's just you being a parent. That is the bare minimum as a parent, providing physical and emotional needs. A lot of these people seem to think that just providing a home for you to live in and providing food is you going above and beyond and being a good parent. That's the bare minimum. Like, you did what you did as adults and you brought a child into the equation. The least that you can do is provide an emotionally and physically safe environment for that child to grow up into. So let's check out some of the comments. The first one here says, oh, wow, as an estranged parent who took the hint and looked at myself and what I needed to work on, you might want to take a look inward. Someone else replied and said, yes, I did this as well. Was so grateful for seeing the truth about how I show up. I made changes and am forever thankful for the blessings I've received and continue to receive because of this. Someone else says, when a child goes no contact, it's because their hope for a healthy relationship has died. They feel unloved, sometimes even hated or resented, and it's too painful to keep fighting for love. Self-esteem is damaged. And I agree. Like I said, I think it's highly unlikely that as a child you got physically and emotionally taken care of, and then you just all of a sudden go no contact with your parent.
So I was an estranged parent, and I have seen a whole lot of content on TikTok talking about like, oh, my kids cut me off and I don't know what I did. And as a formerly estranged parent, I just want to say, yeah, the fuck, we deserved it. There is no circumstance where a child cuts off their parent when it wasn't deserved, because kids are programmed. They're biologically inclined to love their parents. So if your child has cut you off, it's because you fucking deserved it. And I am saying that as a parent who got cut off and who fucking deserved it. I did my best. I did what I thought was right at the time. I was only doing what I thought was best for my kids. Those are all true. What's also true, I was not paying attention to what they needed. I was doing what I thought I needed. So I did my best. I gave all that I had to give, and I still lost my kids. So watching all of these like fucking moms here on TikTok being like, oh, my kids are estranged. I don't know what I did. Yeah, you do. You do. Because I knew. I knew what I did. I didn't want to accept it because that would mean accepting that I was wrong, but I was wrong. I had messed up, and my kids called me out on it because I raised smart, strong, independent people. So if your kids have been raised well enough to kick you out of their lives, congratulations. You did a good job. You failed because they kicked you out, but you did a good enough job that they could stand up for themselves. So to all of the estranged mamas out there clutching their pearls like, oh, but it's my baby. It's my baby. Well, how can they cut me out of their life? It's because you raised a strong enough person to do so. Congratulations, mama. You did a good job, even though you missed the mark. I have spent years rebuilding the relationship with my children because I made mistakes. There was nothing wrong with them. They did nothing wrong. I made mistakes. And coming to terms with that, addressing that, acknowledging that, trying to make amends for the things that I've done, that's how I am now in my children's lives and have great relationships with my kids. But it was me. It was me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And if your kids aren't talking to you, it's you. You're the problem. It's you. Because kids don't step away from a parental relationship unless the parent messes up. It's hardwired. Sorry, long video, but
I love again that she was able to take accountability for her actions. And also, I am happy that she was able to reconcile with her kids because she said she's formerly estranged. That means she's now back in contact with her kids. And I just want to say, you can be doing the best that you can. You can be going above and beyond by your standards and still do wrong by those kids. So just because you thought you were doing what was best at the time, it doesn't mean that you were a good parent. But you also need to take accountability for what you did, where you were at that point in your life, what your children need, and what you can do now to possibly reconcile that relationship that you had with your child. For some parents, they can do the introspection, they can work on themselves, and that child might let them back in their lives to some degree or fully. But if you're not willing to take accountability, if you're gonna be like, oh, I was there for you, I did the best that I could, I sent you to school, I did all of those things, if you're gonna come at it from that angle, you might permanently lose your kids.
Hey everyone, today I was asked what I did wrong for my children not to speak to me. Realistically, I don't actually know because I haven't had the opportunity to sit down with them. All they've done is got together, gang up, and manipulate situations and hate on me. I don't know how we got to a point. My kids pretty much had everything. If there was anything that I didn't do was actually physically show them love. If I could change things, I would have healed from my sexual abuse when I was younger before I had a baby. But I wasn't expecting to be an 18-year-old single mum because baby daddy ran away from his commitments. So in doing that, I had to put my trauma on hold and become a mum. And it was really hard living with all the memories of being sexually abused, all the memories, the sensory, the thoughts, the figures, everything that was running through my head and trying to run businesses as well. I feel like I could have been a better mum at being physically and emotionally attached to my children, which is something that I never did, which I've learnt that my love language for what I went through was to just buy them stuff, and I bought my kids everything. They did not go without. And I'm guessing when I look back now, money versus emotion would win in their sense. But for me, that's all I had on offer. And for most of you that do, some of you that write on here and say, you know, it's your fault, you should have healed before you had kids and all that sort of stuff. Being out of abuse just out of 17 and falling pregnant to my first boyfriend when I was 18, I had no sense around the fact that what that person or those people did to me was wrong. So to me, I figured that that's just how life went. And losing people over and over and over again, and having no self-worth and diminished by this sexual abuse, I didn't know how to love people. And I guess that's what restricted me from being an ultra good mum. I just did the best that I could with what I had. And obviously right now it's not enough. I don't know when it will be enough or even if it will. But right now my focus is while I'm going to therapy is to work on myself, work on my traumas, work on things to make me better. But also in learning all those things, I've learned that it's not okay to be treated like shit by your children. It's not okay to be daunting thoughts every day on why you're not good enough, how, where, to the point where I attempted twice, and every day tendencies still linger. So I've had to network around all of my therapy and understand that I have to keep therapy going so that I can keep myself safe and prove to myself that I do have worth, and I do have loyalty, I do have hope, and all of those things. So if you were wondering about the question, that was it at the start. But yeah, stay blessed. Anyone got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'm happy to do a video on them to respond in my experience. So stay blessed, stay focused.
I think she definitely has a lot of healing to do. And I wouldn't want to see anyone at this place where they're contemplating not being alive anymore because of how they feel from being estranged from their children. And I truly hope that whatever therapy she's going through is going to help her to heal from what happened to her at 17, however she treated her kids during their years, and what she's going through now, and her having a new life now where she has a different perspective on life. Because if your children, more than one, come together and say, hey, we're not going to talk to mom anymore, those children have been hurting for years, have been hurting. This did not happen overnight, and this is not because they didn't realize that you had a hard time, but they realize also that it hurts more to stay in contact with you than it is to cut you loose.
I stayed up late last night on estranged parents TikTok. Mistake. I woke up this morning with so much anxiety. I've had 2 donuts. I've already been on a walk. I just ate some Ruffles and whipped cream cheese mindlessly. I didn't even want it. So you're going to watch me process that and talk about what I think is the biggest mistake that estranged parents make, and maybe show you a clip of one of the videos I saw last night. I'm so triggered as a child of parents and as a parent myself, just the rampant emotional abuse that happens just casually in these videos. And I'm going to show you a clip of it actually first.
Our hands are tied. There's nothing that we can do. You know, a lot of these kids get on here. You parents don't want to fix it. You don't want to do it. No, I've heard many stories, thousands of stories of parents apologizing for crap that don't even need apologize for, and their kids still smack them in the face with the door.
This is it.
You know, it's
Right
a control, it's a power trip that these kids love. It's an epidemic of heartless young adults that do not care the havoc that they're wreaking on families. They don't care who they throw away. It's an easy way out.
Okay, had to stop that because it's like, feel my chest tightening up. That is straight up emotional abuse. When parents assume the bad intentions of their children in their behavior, that is emotional abuse. Her saying it's a power trip that they love to do. That is going into their psyche, into their psychological space, and character assassinating their intentions. That is saying that they cannot possibly, in no world, be coming from a good place with this behavior. And the parents that think like this are a lot of times religious because they have a messed up idea of what sin is, and they've parented from that idea that like people are inherently bad, and so as a parent you have to like change their behavior because they're inherently bad. And so that belief is so ingrained in them, they don't know any differently. The way that they see the world and negative, like distasteful or hurtful behavior is from this paradigm that people are inherently bad and they just weren't raised right. They basically think that people have negative intentions, and that is a very distrustful way of the world. And I mean, it's relationship anxiety in a nutshell. Like, tell me you have relationship anxiety without telling me. You think your kid is coming from a bad place when they do something that you don't understand, and that really hurts you. I thought about making this video like addressing her, and then it's like there's no point. Like she literally doesn't know any differently, and part of that is not her fault, but part of it is at this point where it's like, are you willing to see the world in a totally different way and learn something new? Because and even I see this behavior in her as like she's not trying to be hurtful. Like I don't believe that. Even this behavior, I don't believe, even though as a parent I can't conceive of ever doing that to my child. But people that age, that generation, did not grow up with the internet. They did not grow up with other resources. They have no concept that people live differently than them, and that is based in goodness. And unfortunately, kind of in my recent videos, I've been talking about people that can't take accountability and how they have severe developmental deficits. I've been talking about this in the context of marriage, actually, but it's especially true with estranged parents that the schemas, like the bookshelves in their brain, the libraries in their brains contain information that is completely different than those of this generation and younger, because they just grew up so differently. And the only way, unfortunately, these people become open to these things is through trauma, through people emotionally detaching from them. So anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying here, but there is so much healing for estranged adult children to do when they have a parent that assumes their bad intentions, because what has happened to them being raised by someone like that is they have internalized a negative critical voice that they even have to fight all the time. Like her voice is in their head and they're fighting it all the time. Like in their relationships, in their parenting, in their work, like they're constantly like in this battle in their head of, am I good enough? Am I coming from a good place? Can I assert myself? Enough to even like, that's the last, how much work it takes to get to that place that like my needs, my emotions are valid enough to like assert myself in my marriage. Like that's what adult children are dealing with. And from my point of view, I'm all about restoring relationships and like emotionally detaching from this type of behavior. And unfortunately, estrangement is part of that healing process. I don't think it has to necessarily be forever. It doesn't have to. You can, obviously, but it doesn't necessarily have to. I've been thinking a lot about doing some videos on like the forgiveness, which is not what you think it is. It's emotional resolution to these hurtful things. So let me know if you want that. But please, if you are an estranged adult child and you find yourself on estranged parent TikToks, like please take care of yourself. I'm like hyper aware of myself physically, just like being in this field, and wanting to be, a model in some ways about that stuff. But like, that's not even my mom on this app. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's emotional abuse. And so if you see that, take care of yourself, stay off of it, like talk to people, really like get to the root of how it affects you and just take care of yourself.
Do you think that us as estranged adult children aren't heartbroken about having to essentially orphan ourselves, having to forfeit a relationship with a parent, with someone who raised us, with someone who was personally my best friend for pretty much my entire life until I had to go no contact? I didn't just wake up one day and decide that I was going to go no contact with my mom. Like it was such a build up of so many things over so many years. It was devastating. It was absolutely heartbreaking to have to come to the decision that I could not do it anymore and I couldn't have my mom in my life anymore. Like at this stage in her life, if she is going to continue acting this way and just how she is right now, I cannot have that in my life. I can't. Especially as the eldest child, as the eldest daughter of an addict, I feel so much blame. I feel so much responsibility for not parenting my parents and being 15 and feeling like I should be doing more to help my mom who's struggling with addiction, which is an illness, and feeling just so helpless, feeling that I can't do anything, but also feeling that it's my responsibility as her firstborn, as the eldest daughter, as the eldest child with two younger siblings. Estranged adult children do not make this decision lightly. It is not just one incident happens and all of a sudden you go no contact. Like I said, my mom was my best friend. And obviously looking back on it now as an adult, I can see that we were more like
codependent frenemies than best friends. And I have done a lot of reflecting. That's why I'm so content with my relationship with my mom as it stands right now, which is nothing. We don't have a relationship. And honestly, I think she's comfortable with it too. She never once begged me to be back into her life. She never once even asked me to be back into her life. She very likely believes she did nothing wrong and I'm just being a brat, essentially. But no, I'm absolutely heartbroken that I had to lose that relationship. It sucks. It sucks. Thankfully, I got so lucky with my dad, with my grandparents, that I don't really feel that loss very much. Like, I have a very good support system that I love, but that doesn't mean that I'm not heartbroken. That doesn't mean that I don't miss the relationship that we could have had. And you know what? I don't think she is heartbroken. Like, yes, it has occurred to me that maybe she is heartbroken. However, I don't believe she is. I don't think she cares that much. If anything, I think that I probably care more than she does.
I see this kind of comment all the time about adult children, these mythical adult children who turn on loving parents for no reason whatsoever. And it's absolute bollocks. I have found repeatedly that in my experience, both as a coach that works with clients, a training therapist, and as someone who's created a community of over 100,000 people who experience toxic family dynamics, I have never, ever come across someone who cut off parent for no reason. That doesn't seem to have the impact it is. So why don't we look at it from a logical? Statistically, even as adults, those of us that are in a healthy relationship with loving parents receive so much support. There will be emotional support, financial support, physical support. Support with childcare is a huge one. There is so much support to be had in a relationship with a parent, even when we are adults ourselves, even when we're independent adults ourselves. In what possible reality, in this economy, is anybody turning around and going, that relationship with that healthy parent, I'm just going to disadvantage myself entirely because I feel like it? Whatever angle you look at this statement, whether you are looking at it from a biological point of view, whether you are looking at it from a logical point of view, or whether you are looking at it from the lived experience of people who work within this sector, this does not hold up. No adult child voluntarily orphans themselves, cuts themselves off from a world of support, unseen, invisible support that parents do in a healthy, loving relationship with their adult child. No one. It does not happen. The gymnastics that does happen in order for people to shift the blame away from parents because they're fearful of how it reflects on them as a parent is wild.
My oldest daughter doesn't speak to me. I decided to share this story today.
Hi there. I was tagged in your video a few times, so I thought I would see if I could try to shed some light on this situation. My name is Crystal, and I am almost 57 years old. And my youngest child threatened to go no contact with me if I didn't heal my stuff. And so I know what you're going through. So you said, my oldest daughter doesn't speak to me. I'm amazed at how many parents I run into that are suffering from parental alienation. Now, I know it feels like you are suffering from parental alienation, but that whole verbiage tells me a lot. So I'm going to explain to you how it feels on the side of the adult child. Our children have tried to talk to us a million times and it fell on deaf ears. And so they're just done talking about it anymore. So when you contact your daughter and say, I'm trying to find out why, she's like, I already told her why a million times and she didn't hear me. Now I know your initial instinct is going to be, no. She didn't tell me. I swear she didn't. I know, because I thought that too. And then I went back to my son after I started this healing journey. And I said to him, did you try to tell me? He goes, yeah, tried to tell you a million times. I'm like, oh my God. Why? How did I miss that? And then you said another thing that was very telling. You said, I'm not the best at relationships. So that is something that your daughter probably already knows. And then you said, however, I don't understand. And you can't fix something if you don't understand. I can't heal it if I don't know what caused it. So here's the key. It is not our children's job to tell us where we failed as parents. It's not their job. So how do you find out where you went wrong? You go to a life coach or a therapist and you say, here's a video that I did, and you show them your video. They will see stuff that you can't see, just like I'm kind of explaining right here. And then you said, I didn't speak to my mom. You know, she was very toxic and I didn't speak to my mom. And maybe this is karma. It's not karma. The way you feel about your mom is probably pretty close to the way your daughter feels about you. And I know you don't understand that, but it's a truth bomb. So you admitted that your mother was toxic. So how did you escape unscathed? You didn't, right? You didn't escape unscathed. When you said, I've always felt unsupported, I would tell my mom over and over, I can't take this. And she wouldn't hear me. Flip it. Your daughter has done the same thing, exact same thing. You just didn't hear it. Then you said, as a young mom, I was a wreck. I did the best I could. Yeah. But then you said, I doted on her, loved her, treated her like the princess she is. And many of us have done that with our children, right? We flipped it. We did the exact opposite, or we think we did the exact opposite of what our parents did. But when your pendulum swings this way, it's toxic. And when your pendulum swings this way, it's toxic. This is what we're all searching for and hoping for and want. Balance. Okay. Then you admitted that you got into a second marriage. There was a lot of issues and you should have never worked. You should have never married him. And then you said, I became a workaholic, addiction. I yelled. You have all the answers as to what kind of toxic behavior you have right in front of you. You just said it. You said you married somebody that you shouldn't have married. I became a workaholic. I fell into addiction. I understand. I did too. I yelled a lot. And you're like, well, maybe she's punishing me. No, she's not punishing you. Here's the hard truth. This is all about who you are now. My kids didn't like me. My kids didn't like me as a human being. They thought I was toxic and I couldn't see it. I could not see it. Our children are not punishing us when they go no contact. They are trying to save their own mental health. Just like you said, I can't be around my mom. She's too toxic and I can't fix it and she's not listening. Your daughter is doing the exact same thing with you. Exact same thing. And I know you're going to say, wait a minute, but I'm not my mom. I didn't. But you did admit in the video how toxic you were as an adult. And if we have been brought up by toxic parents and suffered trauma as a kid, we can't outthink it. Many of us think, okay, my mom was so toxic, I'm just going to outthink it and I'm going to do something different. No, toxicity, trauma lives in our body. And we carry it in our body our entire life until we heal the original pain. You've still got it in you. You just don't see it. And now you're saying you're reaching out. Please put me in a room. Tell me what I did. I know that desperate feeling. And your daughter's going, not my job. I tried telling you before. Nope, I'm done talking about it. I am not going to talk to you about it. You need to figure it out on your own. Now, finally, in the video, he said, there's lots of friends going through this and I just don't understand. I do. And so let me see if I can explain it. When we were kids, we didn't have anybody to talk to. We didn't understand mental health. We didn't understand emotional intelligence. We didn't understand any of those things. Heck, when we were at home, we were punished, disciplined, and told we were needed to fall in line. When we went to school, we were punished and disciplined and told we need to fall in line. Whenever we tried to get out of line, we were put back in the box, right? Do not get out of line. And we had nobody to talk to, nobody to turn to. Most of us just survived our childhoods. That's all. And then when we became parents, we thought, well, we're going to do it better. But here's where the kids know more than we know. They've been taught since very young children what mental health is, what emotional intelligence is, how to emotionally regulate themselves, what is toxic. We didn't even know that until we became adults. And our children know this stuff now. And they're looking at us and going, shit, damn, that's my mom. And when they try to talk to us, we've got a wall up and we don't see the wall. I know that you don't see it. I get it. We are not suffering from parental alienation. That wording will keep you stuck forever. You are not suffering from parental alienation. Your child has gone no contact to protect themselves from your toxicity that you don't even see. And you said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you what will be the most useful for you. Take your video that you just made here into a trauma therapist or a trauma coach. I'll help you if you'd like. You can contact me, no pressure. You can contact anybody. I don't care. And show them the video and they will break it down like I just did and take it one step at a time so that your eyes will open to your child's perspective in why they are protecting themselves from you right now. Truth be told, someone said this on my page the other day. Going no contact just means I'm happier without you than I am with you in my life. That's in essence why kids go no contact. Our kids are happier without us than they are with us.
I wasn't able to find the original video that she's responding to because it was deleted, but a lot of these parents will not go to therapy because they don't think therapy works. They just see it as, I'm going to talk to a stranger about my family issues and I don't need to do that because I can fix it by myself. Like, obviously, they don't understand that mental health is something that can be studied, can be worked through. And so they don't see the value in actually doing the work on themselves and also getting help from actual professionals because, again, they don't see mental health as an actual issue. They just think that everyone is against them and they are the victim.
Wow. Okay. So the video I posted yesterday has almost 500,000 views. Let me recap really quickly. I posted a response video to a woman who was talking about no contact and referred to it as, is this a fad? And of course, she got so much backlash that the video is now gone. It's been taken down. Gen Xers, boomers, if you haven't listened yet to your kids, I don't know what else I can say to get you guys to listen. Let me see if I can explain this one more time. When we were growing up, we didn't understand mental health. We didn't understand what trauma was. We didn't understand that we were all being traumatized by our parents. Boomers, Gen Xers, we were so being traumatized by our parents, being left alone, having no supervision, telling us our feelings don't matter, spanking us, corporal punishment, making us afraid of our parents, not giving us a safe space to be in. Think back to your childhood, guys. Anybody who's over the age of 50, think back to your childhood. I'm speaking to people over the age of 50 right now, okay? I understand millennials and Gen Zers had it bad. I'm talking specifically to Gen Xers and boomers. Think back to your childhood. Were you safe? Did you feel loved? Did you feel heard? Were you forced to do things you didn't want to do? Were you told that you were unimportant? Were you to be seen and not heard? Did you have safe adults that you could go to and talk to about your problems? If you had none of that, or if some of that sounds familiar, you have unhealed trauma and you don't even know it. So what we learn to do is we learn to cope. We learned coping skills. And some of those coping skills are horrible. They're just horrible. Some of the coping skills include denial, passive aggressiveness, trolling and manipulating situations so that we don't feel uncomfortable. See, when most of us were raising our kids, we were so wrapped up in our own trauma and so wrapped up in our own pain that we didn't recognize we had a job to do with our kids. And that job was to teach them emotional intelligence. But we couldn't teach something we didn't know. We couldn't teach something we didn't know. It's not our fault, but it's our responsibility now because the information is out there now. And it's proven that we had a huge effect on our millennial and Gen Z kids. And these younger generations are now saying, listen, you don't want to get help for your dysfunction? You go ahead, but I'm not going to have you in my life anymore because we need to stop handing it down to our kids. Can you see what they're saying? Our parents treated us this way. We were taught to live within the rules of society. We were constricted. We were told we couldn't be ourselves. We had to be a specific person. And then what did we do? We did that to our kids. Go to your kids and ask them, do you think I suffered trauma as a child? That's all you need to do. And then if they say, yeah, mom, dad, yeah, I think you have childhood trauma that you haven't resolved, then get your ass to a therapist and they'll help you resolve that. And when they help you resolve that, all of that toxic behavior, your passive aggressiveness, your denial, the anger, all of the defensiveness, it's going to start to go away and your relationship with your kids can be saved. But you got to wake up. You got to wake up and believe them when they say something isn't okay with the way I was raised. Because when they say that, then we can look at ourselves and go, wait a minute, something wasn't okay with the way I was raised either. And because I didn't know any different, I did it to you too. And fix it. Fix it. 500,000 views on the video I did yesterday, and 99% of them are millennials and Gen Zers saying, I'm ready to go no contact, or I went no contact a long time ago. What are we doing? Why are we ignoring this? Why are we ignoring this? I'm going to be honest with you. If I was a betting man, I would say start opening a bunch of nursing homes right now, because in about 10 to 15 years, they're going to be filled with lonely Gen Xers and boomers who didn't pay attention when their kids said, stop this, please. I'm trying to do everything I can to get the attention of my generation and the boomers. I'm a Gen Xer. That's what my whole page is about. My whole page is about, you know what? I had a spiritual awakening. I woke up and I understood, holy crap, I had a lot of trauma as a kid, and I'm healing it so that my kids can have a better future. Don't we want that for them? Our job isn't done. Our job is not done. Yes, our kids are adults. Yes, they have their own lives, but our job's not done. We still have one more thing we have to do before we can sit back and enjoy those golden years. Heal our trauma so our kids don't have to go no contact. Do with this information what you will.
Again, a lot of these boomers and Gen Xers will not take the accountability to actually look into themselves and look into how they were raised in order to adjust moving forward so their kids don't have to go no contact. And also, because of how they have been conditioned, they just see, oh, this kid is complaining to me about how I treated them. They are just spoiled. I spoiled them. I gave them everything. Look, it's me because I spoiled you. So now you're just a brat. And that's not what's happening. This child that you raise is telling you that, hey, you had some issues that you need to deal with. I feel uncomfortable. I feel unsafe. And now that I'm an adult and I actually have a choice of whether or not you are in my life and whether or not I talk to you, now I'm going to choose to not talk to you because you are refusing to listen to me and understanding that there are some things that you are doing or have done that has hurt me and it is not resolved, and therefore we can no longer have a relationship. If they're unwilling to do the proper introspection, they will not have a relationship with their kids.
Did you know that there's an actual term for the type of grief that we are experiencing? Us parents who have adult children who have estranged themselves from us, no contact, and maybe even taken our grandchildren too. It's called ambiguous grief. One of the things they say to do about that is to connect with people who are going through similar experiences. That's what we're doing here. Stay connected. Let's all stay connected. You definitely need a support system, like in real life, not just here on TikTok. Friends, family, a physical group you can go and talk to. You have to take care of your own health. Whoa, I'm just coming over the hump of going into a deep, deep depression, which meant eating more food. I've gained more weight than I've had on me for years, drinking more alcohol, spending more money. I'm getting a grip on that now, but watch and make sure that you're not falling into those habits. It's super easy to do. Accept and understand, and I mean accept that you do have a life that's worth living, even without them. I know for some of you, it doesn't feel that way. It's taken me 2.5 years to get to a point where I'm like, fine, there's nothing I can do, so I just have to go on and live my life. That's called accepting your new normal. This is going to be your new normal for a while until something changes, and hopefully it will. A lot of times these resolve themselves and the kids do come back and families are able to rethread. But accept that this might be your new normal from now on. And seriously, even though I don't believe a lot of therapists are treating this respectfully, if you're going into a deep, deep depression, please do try to find somebody professional to speak with. It's important that you stay around, keep the faith, and hold on to hope. Did you know that there's an actual term?
What does she mean by she doesn't think that a lot of therapists are treating this respectfully? I don't get that. And I also do not wish for any family to be broken, obviously. And I don't have a problem with estranged parents finding community and talking to other people who are going through the same thing with them. But if it is that she means that the therapists are like maybe more on the kids' side to say, then this community that you want to find is just you trying to find other people to play the victims with, and that's not helping either you or your child. And yes, you should seek professional help and you should try to resolve your family issues. But talking as if to say, hey, the kids have abandoned us and they've taken the grandkids, you're not automatically entitled to the grandkids if you were abusive to your children. Because why would I want my father, for example, to be around my child if my father abused me as a child? I would want to protect my child from having to go through what I went through. And so common sense would say I would not have my father interact with my child. And someone in the comments said, I'll tell you right now, kids don't alienate from their parents unless the parents have really done something wrong. And she responded and she said, you have no clue what you're talking about. So obviously, she's in denial that she has done wrong for her kids to alienate her from themselves and the grandkids. And this is exactly the problem. Someone else commented and said, you treat someone, i.e. your children, poorly and wonder why they want nothing to do with you. And the creator again responded and said, go take your negativity somewhere else. You with your hypocritical profile name. And her profile name is Blessed by God. I mean, does this look like someone who is trying to take accountability and trying to work on herself in order to reconcile and have a healthy relationship with her children and grandchildren? You decide. Obviously, every case is going to be unique and every family has a different dynamic and people go through different things, especially if you have multiple siblings. Multiple siblings are going to experience parents in a different way. However, it is a very personal matter, and I don't think that we should be blaming the children for going through traumatic experiences with their parents and because of their parents, and then blaming them for wanting to go no contact. I think it's better that we encourage people to seek therapy. We encourage people to forgive. And a lot of people have a problem with forgiveness, like from what I see in the comments. And forgiveness does not mean you have to ask that person back in your life. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is you releasing the emotional baggage that you're carrying around. If you do not forgive your parents, you're going to be walking around with endless resentment. Once you let that go, you'll be able to comfortably and properly move on with your life. You do not need to hold on to unforgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean what they did is okay. Forgiveness does not mean you're going to let them back in your life. You're going to let them into your children's life. Forgiveness does not mean you're all of a sudden now going to be cool. It simply means that you have decided to let go of the emotional burden, which you need to for the sake of your own life. This has nothing to do with them. Take care of yourselves, stay happy, stay safe, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if there's any other videos surrounding this topic that you'd like me to make, also let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.